Reverend Weiss, can you hear us?
Yes, we hear you, and we can see also.
Okay, thank you. We'll start in just a minute. Is ready? As we gather here today, we're mindful of the fact that we can't all be here standing together physically at the graveside holding each other up. But still we must gather today, both physically and virtually, to share words of praise, words of honor, words of gratitude and thanks, as we recall with great affection Lillian Ullman, a beloved daughter, a beloved sister, a beloved wife, a beloved mother, a beloved grandmother, great-grandmother, a beloved aunt and friend. And we now are going to ask Cantor Schiffman to formally begin our service with the chanting of Psalm 23 in the Hebrew. Cantor, if you'll just give me a second to get the mic closer to the phone. Okay. Thank you to Rabbi Weiss and Cantor Schiffman for starting our service. Of course, we're very honored to have Lil be a member of our congregation for so many years, along with her husband Irv and so much of the family. Though we thought that Lil would always be here with us, be here with us, we know in our heart it was time. At the age of 95, Lil has returned home to all those who have gone before. We gather here at the graveside to say goodbye. Lil has left behind many in mourning, her children, Ronald and Robin, Mark and Susie. The apples of her eye, her grandchildren, Bobby and Rita, Allie, Thawan and Michael, Taylor and David, Chase and Gina and Devin. And the diamonds in her crown, her great-grandchildren, Sophie and Aiden. Lillian now rejoins those who have gone before, the love of her life, her husband of 64 years, her parents Minnie and Aaron, her sisters Edith and Beatrice. She rejoins them all in heaven. At this point, several of the grandchildren have special tributes that they're going to share for Grandma Lil. I'm first going to call out Bobby, and then Allie and Fallon, and they'll likely be joined by several of their siblings.
See if I can make it through this. As I sat here writing the speech, I started thinking about all the laughs we had together and all your prompted, witty remarks back. The last thing you told me was that I was always the funny one, and I'm not going to let that stop me today. All the grandkids are lucky enough to all share a special bond with Grandma. She was selfless, always asking me about how our days were going and what we were up to, never bringing herself up in the conversation. It was always about the family and the weather. She always wanted to know about the weather. Well, just so you know, Grandma, it's cold and snowy today. I have great memories of going over to Grandma's house on Cranston Road and eating the delicious spaghetti and washing it down with Cotton Club strawberry soda. She always had food ready in a bowl. She always had food ready and a bowl of questionable candies to greet her guests. For someone who loved chocolate so much, I'll never understand her hard candy choices. Grandma was also extremely selfless. One day I called her. Well, she thought it was me, but we'll get back to that. And I told her I needed $2,000 wired immediately to get me bailed out of jail in Atlanta. Without zero hesitation, she made Grandpa and her go to the bank to get the money. She never called my dad. She never thought about it. She never asked why was I in Atlanta. It didn't matter. I called her, and that's all she needed to hear. Luckily, when she went to the bank, she told the teller she needed the money to bail out her grandson. The teller thought it was suspicious and called the police. As I was sitting at my desk at work, I got a call from the University Heights police. The police chief proceeds to tell me the story. Confused and concerned, I tell him I don't know what to tell you. I'm here in Cleveland. As I'm sure you can figure out by now, it was some scammer. Yes, she almost fell for it and could have been out the money, but she would have done anything for me and any of us in that situation. I always found that story funny. So it was a no harm, no foul type of thing. But I don't think Grandma did. She was genuinely concerned and would do it again in a heartbeat, no questions asked. Grandpa was in the promotional business, accumulating more tchotchkes than any one person should have. I know. Look who's talking. Have you seen my basement? I don't think Grandma threw any of it out over the years. I should know the whole family is still using the same letter openers to this day. I love going over to the house and going through everything, including Uncle Mark's and Dad's old toys and games. Grandma and Grandpa lived in that house for over 60 years, raised their boys, their pride and joy, and it all came full circle when I moved into that house. Her family was her prized possession. Yes, the holidays will be empty this year without her at the table, but I also know that her legacy will live on forever. I love you, Grandma.
Not everyone gets to grow up with the privilege of knowing their grandparents. Not only were we lucky enough to know our Grandma Lil, we got to love her. Anytime I would call to check in, she was so engaged in the conversation. She loved hearing from all her grandkids and just wanted to know about our lives. As she asked us questions, you could hear her laughing or smiling on the other end, and it was so comforting just hearing her voice. I can vividly recall so many times when Bobby and I would have a day with our grandparents, driving around town, doing fun activities, and without fail, always a stop at Bob Evans for those damn blueberry pancakes. I can't say that I understood the excitement there, but I wasn't paying the bill. Home-cooked spaghetti dinners at Grandma's tasted much better than the pancakes, smelled better too. Every grandma has their own special recipe, and Grandma Lil's was her famous mashed potato balls. It was always exciting being able to gather together as a family at her home and create this unforgettable holiday memory. While food and holidays would bring us together, it certainly wasn't the most entertaining part about being at her house. We would go from room to room looking at old pictures, trophies, trinkets, years of priceless memories, and of course, Dad's old camp letters. Grandma Lil never had anything mean to say about anyone. She was the sweetest, maybe from all those years working at Mally's, and didn't have a bad bone in her body. At the young age of 95, she didn't have any wrinkles either. Hopefully if she passed down any genes, I've inherited that one. She was so proud of the family she created. 2 children, 6 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren, all who got to look up to her and love her. She is now finally reunited with Grandpa, the love of her life. I know both her and Grandpa will continue to look down on us and be proud of watching all the things we'll continue to accomplish in our lives. I love you, Grandma.
Yeah, let's switch.
All right, so this is a letter to my children. Bear with me. Dear Sophie and Aiden, you got to have your great grandma Lil for a short time, and I hope you always feel connected to her, although the timeline was brief. She's been by my side for as long as I can remember, guiding me and supporting me. Lil and Irv were a huge part of my life and raising me to become the woman that I am today. They put me on a pedestal like no one else, and I always felt their love, whether near or far. Even though they're no longer with us, I will always feel their constant love in my heart. Great-Grandma Lil is in a more comfortable place now, proactively prepping Passover for Grandpa Irv, Auntie Edie, Aunt Bee, her dad Aaron, Mother Minnie, and countless others 2 months in advance. This year I plan on cooking a brisket in your honor. Lil was a proud mother of 2 boys, Mark and Ronnie. I hope I can always be as good and patient with you 2 as she was with them. If she raised these 2, we know she did something right. So now, a little more about your great-grandma Lil. Lil was a marvelous cook and meticulous when it came to cleaning. While being a great cook, we always judged her for liking her steak overly well done, resembling leather. She liked the laundry done in a very particular manner, and I think that's why I like to do laundry too. Much like me, Lil took a minute to get ready and tended to run a little late. She was an accessories person. Brooches, scarves, hair covers for her manicured look in case it was windy or inclement weather. Sorry, Grandma, that is today. While she never had her ears pierced, it's quite possible she owned every clip and screw-on earring ever made. The beauty shop was her spot. She spent hours there, kibitzing with the ladies of how proud she was of her sons, her grandkids, and her great-grandbabies. She had a lot to be proud of. My favorite restaurant to go to with my grandma was the Hoa at Beechwood Place. Chick-fil-A came in a close second. One of the highly practical life lessons she taught me was how to line a toilet seat in a public place while peeing and always squat for fear of germs. Outside of the beauty salon, Grandma was a chatty phone person. It would take significant time to get off the phone with her because she would never want to end the conversation early. She had to have the last word. She peppered us with all the questions and blew air kisses to avoid ruining her lipstick, even on the phone. When your Uncle Chase had a tedious commute while living in Chicago, Grandma would accompany him via phone on many rides to keep him sane during his 1.5-hour drives each way. Grandma would always call Taylor to confirm the QVC updates related to the hottest new color or fashion trend of the season. She took great joy in when Taylor was in town to do her eyebrows, paint her nails, or pick out a new blouse as our resident fashion queen. While she wasn't the biggest traveler, she benefited from Devon's worldly travels by being on the receiving end of getting gourmet chocolates from literally every country. When she called the house line, her focus was constantly Susie. Where is Susie? How is Susie feeling? Can I talk to Susie? She was always a phone call away at any hour, literally, for as long as we needed. Always a listener first and foremost, but never forgot to ask about the weather wherever we were located at the time. She was perpetually cold, and since I run hot, she used to hold my hands to warm up. My favorite personal snack at my grandparents' was pita bread with tomato and cheese slightly melted. Not a visit to Cleveland would go by without Grandma having Don Herman's pickles on hand for me. I would devour a jar. Lil would warn me of the stomachache consequences, but I never listened. Still, after all these years, I could never decipher the kosher versus non-kosher silverware drawers. They used to love the plush green shag carpets in their home on Cranston. Growing up, if I wasn't eating pickles or getting lost in the drawers upstairs in Uncle Ronnie and my dad's room, we would sit at the kitchen table and Lil would help me with flashcards to learn math. I still suck at math. I'm a picky produce shopper because of her. All those times accompanying her to Heinen's really paid off. I just never realized it at the time. Those micro moments really craft you into the person you ultimately become. Fast forward to more recent years. While never a dog person, she warmed up to snuggly Mochi quite early. She even let her in her home. This made your Papa Mark very happy. Her sense of humor stayed with her till the end, as did her desire for corned beef and chocolate. Last week, she asked for a sandwich while on hospice. The care your great-grandmother Lil received these past 5 years was exceptional. Words cannot convey our gratitude to Johnny, Francis, and Deborah for their kindness, companionship, and care 24/7. They became part of our family and vice versa. It was also helpful that they labeled the kosher sections in your house. Why we didn't think of this earlier was astounding. Sophie, my favorite thing the last year was when you would call her Lil with your goofy toddler Jersey accent. You knew she wasn't feeling well in these final days somehow. You're extra lucky for having known your great-grandma, and I will never allow you to forget her legacy. Lil was beautiful, selfless, silly, devoted, and a loving family woman, but mostly an upstanding person. I hope we all have a little Lil in us. We will celebrate her remarkable 95 years now and always. I'm eternally blessed to call Lil my grandma, as we all are, and to have seen her become a great-grandmother 2 times over. There are countless stories and photos I will share with you throughout your lifetime to keep her fresh in our minds and hearts. Lil made my life brighter, and while it dims a bit on days like today, I know she would want all of us to move forward with a smile. Please excuse my Yiddish. Sei gesund und gang gesund.
Love you, Grandma.
Thank you to all the grandchildren. What a real blessing to have Lil in your lives, to share all that she was with each and every one of us. Rabbi said the words from the heart enter our hearts, and you really brought Grandma Lil into all of our hearts. She was a gute neshama, wonderful and kind. As you told me, she was spectacular, iconic and timeless, beautiful, warm, and loving. honest to a fault, always smiling. How she loved to laugh. She laughed a lot. We had so much fun together. She never got angry. She never complained, even confined to a wheelchair in these last few years. Always just filled with love. If you didn't get the sense yet from the grandchildren, family was truly the center of Lil's life. The home was her palace. The kitchen was her royal throne room. That great cook and meticulous cleaner. Her seat was always right next to the telephone so that she could stay connected to you. She lived for family. She loved each of you so much. Ron, you told me that Mom had a good run, 95 years, a beautiful life, never sick, no surgery, no medication. She had everything that she needed. Her 2 doting sons, Ron and Mark, her daughters in love, Robin and Susie, who she considered her own. Rita, you shared these words about Bobby's grandma with me. Lil was a true matriarch, so proud of her 2 boys, of the families that they raised, a breath of fresh air. You truly knew how much she loved her grandchildren. And then her face when she met Sophie, the first great-grandchild. Ron, you shared the video with me of that interaction, the incredible love shared between the 2 of them. Susie, you shared with me these words. We were so lucky to have her so long. We became so close, we'd laugh and cry together at the same time. She became a best friend to me. How much you appreciate all that she gave you and the family. And Robin, you told me that Lil was so proud of her 2 boys, Ron and Mark, how they were role models for the whole family. Lil got so much nachas from all of you. Born and raised here in Cleveland, growing up on Lynn Drive in Glenville, Lil graduated from Glenville High School. She enjoyed dances at Euclid Beach on the weekends, and after graduating, she worked for Lamport's downtown in the schmata business. Later, as you heard, she worked at Maui's Chocolate, the candy store, always giving you samples, keeping on that green apron even when you'd meet her for dinner after. How did Lil meet her beloved Irv? They didn't have J-Date back then. They were set up on a blind date. Irv had just finished his time in the service during World War II. He moved with his parents from the South to New York and then on to Cleveland. In preparing for Irv's funeral service more than 6 years ago, Lil shared this story with me. From that first blind date, she remembered how good-looking and trim Irv was. She told me he was the spitting image of the comic book hero Captain Marvel. Lil was taken by his looks and his personality. And at the time, Devin, you shared with me that Grandpa always used to tell you that he knew that the first time he met Lil, he was destined to be with her. That he believed in fate. He fell for her that first night. And Fallon, at the time, you shared with me that Grandma would say that Irv was a great guy, but not the best dancer, that she always had to lead. Irv and Lil were married on March 12, 1950 at the Alcazar Hotel, and as we say, the rest is history. 64 years together as best friends and partners, loving each other deeply, taking care of each other. He was the one that would button up her dresses. They just did the little things for each other, always. A great mother. You told me she always cared for you when you were little. She gave Ron and Mark breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In the summer, she'd yell down the street as you were playing outside, time to come in to eat. She did everything for you, made everything for you. Although Mark shared, the salmon patties was the one thing he couldn't eat. The rule at home was he always had to finish her plate, so Mark devised a system of fooling her and throwing out the evidence. You also couldn't stand that one velour shirt that Grandma Sophie got for you. Mom made you wear it anyway, so you always had a quick change in the garage on the way out and the house back in. You're still convinced you still fooled Mom to this day. Truthfully, she was the ultimate mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, a real balabusta, running the house, making sure everyone was well-fed, had everything you needed, and everyone knew they were loved. Truly loyal, as exemplified by that story that Bobby shared about the scam. Chase also shared a similar story, although this wasn't exactly a scam. Chase, you told me when you went to your first high school party and your parents were out of town, the police came, broke up the party, and they arrested you. They booked you, and who did you call in the middle of the night? that late night owl, Grandma Lil. She came and bailed you out. She never told your parents. You told me Grandma was going down with the ship with her lips sealed. Allie, you told me that family was the most important thing in Grandma Lil's life, all she cared about. So invested and interested in each of you, an active part of your lives, and a little bit of a worrier too. To become a great grandmother was the ultimate, overwhelmed, as I said, when she met Sophie, who threw up on her that day. She just loved watching her dance and smile. And as you said, in her last days, Lil called out to Aiden, loving all the pictures of the babies in the house that she looked at every single day. She loved each of you so much. I remember how happy she was at Bobby and Rita's wedding. The smile on her face was priceless. You already heard how she was a great cook, although you said I had to say this. She made, quote, kick-ass beef barley soup. And the chicken soup that she made without a recipe, and when Susie wanted the recipe, she said, come over. And Susie, you watched several times as you figured out how much was a pinch of this and a smidge of that. And now, Susie, you make Grandma Lil's soups. Irvin Lil would go out using those coupons from the entertainment book. You heard about Bob Evans and Hoa and Chick-fil-A. She loved going to the Mayfield Country Club. She'd always order 2 whole meals and eat them both. She also really just loved going to the kids' house and being with you. A big drinker, she might have 1 glass of Riesling. That was her limit. Always put together, she was a big shopper. Marks and Dillard's were her favorites. QVC, as you heard, for the Joan Rivers exclusive line. She always complained about the price of produce. And as you heard, flawless skin. Judaism was important to her. She was a woman with strong faith. The shul and the traditions, a kosher home, except when the kids brought in the treif. She'd line the table with newspaper, pull out the paper plates, and when you were done, everything went straight into the garbage in the garage, not staying in the house. The last week has been filled with many special visits with Lil, with Mom, with Grandma, laughing together at the silliest of things. Through it all, you were all there for Lil. You made sure she was content, extremely well cared for. You all watched over her, ensuring that she was always cared for with compassion and love, dignity, that she was the matriarch, that she was still Mom, Grandma, and great-grandma. As you said, thankful to her amazing caregivers who became part of the family. Ron and Mark, you made sure that Mom always stayed home, updating, renovating, adding to the house, making sure it was always her palace, making sure that Mom had everything she needed. She most certainly had love. You all made sure that she had it until the end. On that last day, you were there, you visited with her, and when Ron and Robin left, before Chase was coming in next, she took her last breath. She knew how much you loved her, and I know you each knew how much she loved you. May her name always bring blessings. We know she is going home to all those who have gone before, most especially Irv. May she be at peace. May she be remembered with love. And we say, Amen. We're going to pause now as the casket is lowered. Following the lowering of the casket, we'll participate in the ritual of shoveling the earth and then gathering together for the memorial prayers and the Kaddish. this point, we're going to ask just for the immediate family to place earth on the casket, and then we'll regather for the closing prayers, and then all the friends and extended family are here are all welcome to participate in the mitzvah after we say the Kaddish.
It's like mine, it's real thick. Yeah, I feel like.
Cantor, if you're there, we're now going to gather for the Galmali, the memorial prayer, followed by the Kaddish. El Mali Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of our beloved Leah Rivka, Lillian Ullman, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. Thank you, Lil, for teaching us how to live the right way, the good way. You are a kind soul. You taught us how to live in this world, how to be kind in this world. We pray that you merit the reward of living a life filled with righteousness, kindness, and love. A true Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Lil, may your soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May you rest in peace. I will say, Amen. At this point, we're going to ask for the family to join with me in the recitation of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitz Gadol v'yitz Gadash Shemei Rabbah V'yalma Divrach Hirute V'yamlik Malchute V'chayechon Uvyomechon Uv'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uvizman Kari V'yamru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach V'yalam Mulameo Maya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitase V'yitadar V'yitala V'yithalal Shemei Dekudsha Brichu La'ela Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechamata Da'amiran V'yolama V'yamru Amen. Yehi Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'yol Kol Yisrael V'yamru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mamav U'ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'yol Kol Yisrael V'yamru Amen. Lil, as your soul ascends to heaven, as you rejoin Irv and your sisters and your parents, please continue to watch over us, to teach us, to guide us, and to love us. We will carry you with us in our hearts and in all that we do. We might even overcook a steak in your memory. We'll always remember you, always with love. And we say, Amen. Thanks for all who have joined us on Zoom. We're going to ask for the extended family and friends that are here now that want to participate in the mitzvah of shoveling earth on the casket. Please come for that mitzvah. And thanks to Rabbi Weiss and Cantor Schiffman for helping.